Going into the World Series every year, fans hope for a compelling series above all else, or to watch a team they hate completely collapse. And for some this year, they got both. The 2025 World Series immediately ranked amongst the best all time, with multiple down-to-the-wire games, including one going 2 games, numerous records being broken, historic performances, and an all-time Game 7.
Totally sports-esque. Major League.
The interesting thing about these two teams going into the series was where they were before. The Dodgers were defending champions and already a massive powerhouse, while the Blue Jays finished the previous season in last place. A down year after 2 playoff appearances that ended with 0 wins. Expectations were not high going into the season for the Blue Jays, but after locking up Vlad Jr. for the long term, after being down 8 games to the end of May, they turned the corner and led the division for the last 3 months that they won on the final day of the season to finish with the best record in the American League. They then beat their division rival the Yankees in 4 games at ALDS, then after going down 2-0, heading on the road to face the Mariners, they won the next 2, dropped Game 5, but won the last 2 at home, thanks in part to George Springer's heroics in Game 7. On the other side, the Dodgers simply had expectations of a World Series or nothing less, with the roster that only got better by adding Blake Snell and Roki Sasaki. And with injuries and a number of ups and downs, they coasted to another division title, this time with just 93 wins, putting them in the wildcard round, which didn't really matter, as they were dominant on their way to the World Series, sweeping the Reds, beating the Phillies in 4, in part to an extra innings mishap. Then against the number 1 seed in the Brewers, they swept them as Shohei Ohtani struck out 10 and hit 3 home runs in Game 4, setting up for a compelling World Series that delivered everything and more. And the narrative was seen from the start. Game 1 saw a matchup with the 2-time Cy Young winner that the Dodgers gave $182 million versus a rookie named Trey Yesavage, who came out of nowhere to become a postseason hero. And after the Dodgers took an early lead, the Blue Jays would explode in the 6th with 9 runs, one shy of the World Series record, with the first ever pinch-hit World Series Grand Slam hit by Addison Barger, the first of many firsts, as the Blue Jays won 11-4. But the Blue Jays were introduced to their worst nightmare in Game 2, as Yoshinobu Yamamoto took the mound, and he began his dominance. It's unfortunate for Kevin Gausman, who pitched good throughout the series, this game being tied at 1 for most, until the underrated clutch player Will Smith hit a go-ahead home run in the 7th inning. Max Muncy would add another, as Yamamoto threw a complete game with 8 strikeouts, the first in the World Series since Johnny Cueto in 2015, and the first to throw multiple complete games of postseason since Madison Bumgarner in 2014. And after his complete game in Game 2 of the NLCS, he was the first with back-to-back complete games of the postseason since Curt Schilling in 2001. And then there was the Game 3. The Dodgers took an early lead off Max Scherzer, who became the first to pitch in the World Series for 4 different teams. But Alejandro Kirk, who made an early case for MVP, hit a go-ahead 3-run home run in the 4th inning. The Dodgers would tie things in the 5th, before a Bo Bichette single gave the Blue Jays a lead in the 7th inning. But then Shohei Ohtani hit his 2nd home run in the game to tie things in the bottom half, becoming the 2nd after Frank Isbell of the 1906 World Series to record 4 extra base hits in a World Series game. And from there, it was a wild ride with great pitching and key defensive plays. Going to extra innings, a risky send resulted in pinch runner Davis Schneider being thrown at home on a Nathan Lucas double. Hoffman and Fisher got out of jams, then out of the bullpen with the bases loaded and 2 outs in the 12th, Clayton Kershaw made his final appearance by inducing a groundout. And from there, it was Will Klein and Eric Lauer in a battle, putting up zeros and getting out of jams. And it is Will Klein's performance that will be more remembered, because in the bottom of the 18th, Freddie Freeman hit a walk-off home run to center field. The 2nd year in a row that Freddie Freeman hit a walk-off home run in the World Series, and the 2nd time a World Series game ended in the 18th inning. That other game involved the Dodgers, also hitting a walk-off home run off the bat of Max Muncy. Ohtani setting a record in this game by reaching base 9 times, also drawing 4 intentional walks. But in 2018, the Dodgers came out, and they lost the next 2 at home. However, this time, the Dodgers had a series lead and a better team. And it was these 2 games that showcased the resilience of the Blue Jays. Ohtani made his first World Series start, and after the Dodgers took an early lead, Vlad Jr. put them back up with a 2-run home run, which would end up being the difference, as Shane Bieber picked up the win after a 4-1 7th inning to tie the series at 2. And in Game 5, the Blue Jays came out firing right away, as Davis Schneider, only there as George Springer was nursing an injury, hit a home run on the first pitch of the game. Then 2 pitches later, Vlad Jr. made it 2-0 with a home run of his own, the first back-to-back home runs to start a World Series game in history. But the star of the night was the rookie Trey Yesavage, as he went 7 innings and struck out 12, making him the youngest pitcher to strike out 10 or more in the World Series, passing Smokey Joe Wood in 1912. He also set the rookie record for strikeouts, also joining Randy Johnson in 2001 and Bob Gibson in 1968 as the only pitcher to strike out every batter in the lineup in a World Series game, as the Blue Jays took a 3-2 lead as they were heading back home. And with a chance to win their first title in 32 years, it was a rematch of Game 1, and all the scoring came in the 3rd inning. A huge 2-run single from a slumping Mookie Betts, where George Springer would counter with an RBI single. Yamamoto would go 6, and the real threat came in the bottom of the 9th, with a man on and no outs, Addison Barger hit a ball to the wall that somehow was wedged underneath the wall, resulting in a ground rule double. It was the right call, but the likeliness of this happening could seemingly only happen here. But it's what happened next that made it so important. Tyler Glass now came out of the bullpen, and on the first pitch, Ernie Clement, in the midst of his historic run, hit a shallow pop-up. Then 2 pitches later, Andres Jimenez hit a line drive to left that was caught by Kike Hernandez, and with Addison Barger leaning, he threw to second, Miguel Rojas picked it, and seemingly in the blink of an eye, the Dodgers forced a Game 7, pretty much the only way this series could end. And with it all on the line, the Dodgers went to Shohei Ohtani on short rest for the first time in his career, pretty much having to start if the Dodgers wanted to keep his bat. While on the other side, at the age of 41, Max Scherzer was to become the oldest pitcher to start a winner-take-all World Series game, this being his second one, with the previous being the most recent Game 7 before in 2019 with the Nationals. And after escaping a few jams, the big blow came in the third when Bo Bichette, who was lucky to even be playing in the series with a bad knee, hit a 3-run home run. That a play that added 19.97% to the Blue Jays' championship win probability, 0.2 ticks higher than George Springer's home run in the ALCS. The Dodgers got one back the next inning and cleared pretty much everyone. It felt like the Blue Jays needed more, as they squandered many opportunities. They did get around the 6th after Ernie Clement recorded his 30th postseason hit to set a record, then he scored on a Jimenez double, but eventually overlooked. Off Trey Yesavage, who came out of the bullpen on 2 days rest, Max Muncy cut the lead to 1 with a home run in the 8th inning, and it was 4-3 going to the 9th. Closer Jeff Hoffman got a quick out, then up came the 9-hitter in Miguel Rojas, with the big worry being to just not let him get on base before the top of the order came up, not hitting a home run in over a month and only hitting more than 10 home runs once in his 11-year career. But on a full count, Rojas would connect and would hit the first game-tying home run in the top of the 9th in a World Series Game 7, adding 34.9% to the championship win probability, the 11th highest ever, and about as out of nowhere as you can get. Things would go to the bottom half tied, with Game 5 starter Blake Snell in the game, who put 2 runners on, before out of the bullpen came Yamamoto. Reminiscent of Randy Johnson 2001, but Johnson came in with a 1-run deficit in the 9th, while Snell put Yamamoto in a jam that he made worse by hitting Alejandro Kirk. Then with the infield in, Dalton Varsho hit a ball to Miguel Rojas. He stumbled for a moment, and with a bad jump by IKF, the throw beat him by an inch, as Will Smith's foot came back at the right time. But still with the chance, the postseason hit king Clement drove one to left. Hernandez looked to be struggling, then out of nowhere, Andy Paz knocked him over, and he made the catch. The wildest 9th inning Game 7 since the 1960 World Series. And so many little things had to go the Dodgers' way to even be there, and they all did. Seranthony Dominguez escaped the same situation in the 10th on 2 close plays, and Yamamoto had a 1-2-3. Game 4 starter Shane Bieber then came in, and he got 2 quick outs, with Will Smith coming up to bat. Someone whose importance seems to be understated to this Dodgers team. He had a huge moment in Game 2, and he almost did in Game 3. But this time, he got all of it on a 2-0 pitch that went over the left field wall to give them a 5-4 lead, adding 41.03% to the championship win probability, putting it at 5th all-time, passing Rajai Davis's 2-run home run in Game 7 of 2016. Yamamoto remained out there for the bottom half, and right away, Vlad Jr. hit a huge double to keep their hopes alive. IKF then laid down a perfect sac bunt, and then Barger was given the intentional walk to bring up Alejandro Kirk, the slowest player in all of baseball. There were 2 strikes. Without Barger stealing, he did the worst possible thing, and he hit a grounder to short. Mookie would field it, he touched second, threw to first, and the Dodgers won the first back-to-back titles in 26 years. Above all, that play added the most championship win probability at 46.24%, the highest ever for an out, and the 4th highest ever, just behind Tony Womack's game-tying double in Game 7 of the 2001 World Series. Meaning in just 1 inning, we saw 2 of the 5 most impactful plays in World Series history, and throughout the game, there were 9 with at least 15%. That topping the 1924 Game 7, which we all remember, which had 7 of those plays. And all but Bo Bichette's home run occurred in the 9th inning or later, wrapping up which easily goes down as one of the greatest World Series games and series of all time. Just in terms of the 21st century, this is immediately in the S tier with series like 2001, 2002, 2011, 2016, and 2017. All 7-game series that had great games throughout the entire series and historic individual performances. And this time we had 2 iconic games, with Game 3 going 18 innings. There was the historic performance of Trey Yesavage that will ultimately be overshadowed by Yamamoto. He became the first since Randy Johnson 2001 to win 3 games in 1 series. And another recent name that immediately came up was Madison Bumgarner in 2014, who went 7 with 1 run given up in Game 1, threw a complete game shutout in Game 5, then came out of the bullpen and pitched 5 scoreless in a 1-run game in Game 7. He had a 92% of the championship win probability, the 3rd highest ever by a pitcher in the World Series, and right behind him was Yamamoto with 79.1. And you can argue he put up the greatest relief appearance ever, coming out on 0 days rest to a massive jam, with the World Series having the possibility to end on every pitch he threw, except the ones of Vlad Jr., which ended pretty quick. Regardless of the narrative, this is easily one of the greatest performances in World Series history, and overall, it was the pitching that was the difference. Reminiscent of the Pirates in 1960, the Dodgers were outscored by 8 runs in the series and hit just 203, the worst batting average by a winning team since the 1966 Orioles, who beat the Dodgers in 4 games, and that was in the midst of the second dead ball era. The Dodgers spent $1.2 billion on their rotation, and only starting pitchers pitched in Game 7, and that was the difference. So many little things went the Dodgers' way, and the Blue Jays did not take advantage of their chances, which makes this one of the most brutal losses you'll ever see. In what was an incredible World Series that, even with recency bias, overall could be called the best of the century so far. There was the individual pitching performances on both sides, there was the back-and-forth Game 7, reminiscent of 2001 and 2016, with the chaos of Game 6 in 2002 and 2011, and a narrative involving multiple countries and the future of baseball that would linger over the entire series. It's hard to put it over 1991, as not every game was down to the wire, and what might take away some for many is that the new evil empire wasn't defeated like it was in 2001 with the Game 7 walk-off, which could have put this series over everyone before. But it seemed fate, and billions of dollars, was not going to stop the Dodgers, who were kept alive by the most unlikely source, which makes postseason baseball so great, and will hopefully continue for years to come.